Anime, dubbed anime. Um, Dubbed anime is definitely to me preferable than to preferable. I might be mixing my words to try to get what I mean. Preferable to watching subbed anime. Um, I mean we don't take things that we watch and put subtitles beneath them, like when they're not, originally when they're originally produced in our country. So when people make the argument that subs are better than dubs, unless they watch everything they watch in subtitles, they don't believe that. That's, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really just trying to argue against people who do watch dub before. Do watch sub before dub. Um, I like to have immersion in the character, and one process that helps me do that is a voice that I feel belongs to the character. Um, Japanese sound Japanese. So when you give me a character, really any character that's not based in Japan, um, it almost always translates to me saying, this is just one of the things, but translates to me saying, it takes me out of the immersion process. This is a character, it's not real, and blah, 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 and stuff like that. Um, and some characters, especially in Western anime, Western anime. I mean, anime that takes place in like a Western setting, like medieval times, or a clerical order of, magic and bishops and knights and dragons and things like that. Like that's such a Western thing to me. I know there's dragons and Chinese and things like that, but I'm talking, well, I know, well, I have to hope you know what I mean. And if you do, know that when I see a nun with blonde hair and blue eyes, as ridiculous as, it's just so many anime, there's a nun. Um, I want her to speak English. I want him to speak English. If you're watching Kawa Under the Bridge. Although, just to speak about the anime real quick, Kawa Under the Bridge, great anime. I don't know what it would be like, in English, but it's grown on me. I don't know. Like there's some anime that I've watched that are some of my favorite anime, and I hate to say that, but I mean it's an extent that I like to think all my anime are my favorite anime. They all have different aspects to them, but there are a majority of them that stand out on top above those on the bottom. Like if anything, there's a two halves list: favorites and favorites. Favorites. And one of them, it actually is Quechua Maid Sama, or just call it Maid Sama. Usui and Mikasa. Uh, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce the names that well. That's another thing that dubs do for me. They they give me the names in a way that I can remember them. I can remember lines, I can remember actions. I think a lot of people who watch sub, like they understand it at the time, but it's harder for them to remember and process that later, especially when you heard it when you heard it in one language and you read it in another. That can be good for trying to learn a language, but not so much for remembering the stories that another language taught you when you're not as familiar with it or not fluent. And I feel that that is the case. But Keiichiro Maid-sama, all-time favorite anime. 26 episodes, great, check it out, whatever. I think, forget the company's name, but they're relicensing or something the manga and redistributing it. Because it's so great, it's so good, it's so amazing. It's what it is really. It's not, honestly, they're a perfect anime. They're anime that just do the things right on every level. But they'll never be rated a 10 out of 10. They'll never be rated a 9 out of 9 or 9 out of 10. They'll be 8 out of 10s because they do everything right, but they're just not. They have nothing. There's something special they don't carry with them, and this is something that's special. Something special that carries it with it, and I think for the most part, it does do an amazing job. It's like it really reads from the manga, like page by page, and more than that, it doesn't try to. Um, it doesn't try to go past the manga in any way or try to combine chapters. I think toward the end there was the decision made that these weren't filler chapters, but chapters we can do now or chapters we can do later, and they really don't contradict each other. But to do these ones slightly ahead now instead of later, and I think that's what happened at the last two episodes before the last. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure that's quite the case, but I'm just saying if anything is distorted about whether the chapters don't follow the anime exactly, and that the content is rushed or anything, that's the only case I feel from my memory I can remember. I watched that about 5 times, and I watched clips on that 5 times. Read the manga one. I read parts of the manga 2 times, 3 times. Certain chapters, a little more than that. But I never I would kind of like to go back and read from the beginning, but I don't. I don't know. Like I have the memory so fond of the starting off with the anime. But I'm probably gonna do it and then just rewatch the anime if I miss that feeling. But anyways, all this is to illustrate the point that it's not that I'm indiscriminately looking at dubbed anime, and I'm not willing to watch a subbed anime. But when anime is dubbed, I feel it's important to watch it that way. An example would be. Oh, sorry, that was the example. And something crazy. That anime is dubbed. Ketro and Maid Sama is dubbed. But it was crazy. It's crazy because though I think I watched it when it was just being released or something, or it had just been released. It was just like it was one of the, because when I started out with anime, there were certain anime that just kind of popped out when you're looking for anime to watch because they're the ones that stand out. They're the ones that stood out or rest the other anime and stuff like that. And honestly, I don't think. I think there's Mira and Nikki. There's School Days. Although I'm not saying that's great, but these are anime that you've heard of, but they're not as quite as Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, and others. But to get to more to the point, these anime stood out for me, and I only wanted to watch them in English dub, and I said to myself, I'm definitely not watching the sub, definitely not doing it, and I looked at that and I was like, I want to watch this. I looked to see if there was a dub, and I couldn't find one. I don't exactly know what happened. This is the problem with this story. I don't know when the dub was released, because it might have been around the same time when I watched the anime itself, which might have been released just when I started really getting into anime, like when I was in my second, wave of anime. I'm probably in the 13th wave now. I don't know. The first wave was kind of finishing Inuyasha or going to see, finishing Zatch, but I can't finish Zatch Bell because that's a. I'm gonna say, all right, I'll say it. I really should do another video, but there's certain anime that very few, but have an English dub, but for various reasons, like Zatch Bell and other anime, like what. I keep getting sidetracked because there's so many little parallel thoughts I need to make. Honestly, I might make a few videos on dubbed anime. Is that what I'm doing, or just talking about anime in general? But Zatch Bell went, I think, to episode 100, well, about 100 in dub, and it was part of and Zatch Bell, Ketchua Maid Sama, Elemental Glade. Like there were a lot of anime that were part of a company called Tokyo Pop, and technically Tokyo Pop is still around, and but it's definitely restructured itself and blah blah blah. But Tokyo Pop kind of fell, kind of like it's kind of like how you'll. It's kind of like trying to think of an example, a good example. A good example, or the best one that I can come up with, is Spain. Spain had half the world on its shoulders, and now it's just Spain. That's probably the best example because Tokyo Pop has definitely fallen, but it didn't fall completely. Something crazy about a lot of anime companies is that they have divisions or whatever parts to them. So when they fall, not necessarily does everything like Bandai had, I think, Bandai Entertainment, which was responsible for a couple of anime, but there's also Bandai Namco and Bandai something. There's a different Bandais, but it's almost like they set themselves up so that if they were to fall, they could fall back into different parts of their anime empire. Um, but to get to more to it, they're def- Ketchua Maid-sama had an English dub. I later found out, and I thought it was a joke because I saw it on YouTube and initially, and then I saw it on another site, and and then I checked my anime list, and apparently it's real. Apparently it's a real dub. And the reason I say I saw it on YouTube first and kind of was in disbelief is it sounded like how fan dubs would have sounded. Like I've heard fan dubs. I tried to want to use fan dubs for certain anime when I first started out and wanted to look in other when I wanted to see anime that were either in English dub and I couldn't find them online or different reasons, and or just I was trying to use YouTube, I think, for actually probably starting out because you didn't know where to go, and that's probably one of the problems with the anime industry. And I'd say the fans aren't to blame, but is that where were you going to go for anime? The best way to watch it. I don't know if the technology wasn't there. I don't know if the industry wasn't there's a lot to say about those issues. But anyways, seeing the fan dub, it was the sub. I I have rewatched anime with the dub. It's now like it just now came out with the dub, and and the sub version is the one I watched, and half of those anime I have completely rewatched in dub, and the other half I looked at the dub, I thought about it, I was like, nope, nope. And it's not even that uh, it's not that the dub isn't good, great, whatever. It's that you get so attached to the voices that you don't. I get so attached to the voices. I don't care. I think I'm a good judge in some regard, but that's why the dubs are so easy to me to just dive into. It's the voice you. I mean, this is the voice of the character. You have to believe that, and things will be easier for you. To say that the sub, is the best, because honestly, when you hear this is just the trash sub, like okay, you might hear there's an exception to every rule, blah blah blah, but that's not the talk of the town. And I say that because like you you don't know how to differentiate in the sub, and you just know that the dub is bad, but you're comparing it to the sub version, and that's how you know it's bad. I mean, comparison is a good way of evaluating things sometimes, but things need to be measured by their own standards. Like you need to look at an English dub, this English dub and that English dub, and really tell me if think, just if you're gonna compare, on a fair basis like that. But yeah, my favorite anime is a subbed anime, and it is the subversion that I watch when I'm rewatching and things like that. I think I watched probably the first time I watched a fan sub, but it was a pretty accurate fan sub, or at least to me it was. Um, I watch a lot of romance anime. The only problem I have with fan subs is sometimes they say I like you, and then sometimes they say like I love you, and there's a huge difference. Although um, when you say you like somebody, or even if um, you could say you loved it. I don't know if it would be completely the same. It's always confused me because it's in subbed anime that the difference always shifts back and forth between I like and I love you, and it's unclear how serious the either one is because both are very serious, at least in Japan and other anime like that where it takes place in Japan or um, it's the Japanese sub. So saying I like you is similar to the equivalent of I love you, and you kind of you know you're not sure where their relationship has progressed or their feelings have progressed at least. So that's the only bad part about fan subs. Just to speak on fan subs, maybe I can't make a video on fan subs because fan subs. I don't know too much about fan subs. I watched Attack on Titan in fan subs. Attack on Titan, another anime I tried watching dubbed and was like no good. It was no good. I was already too attached, convicted to, and I really would have liked to have been because it's an action, uh, genre, partially anime, and those I definitely want to see the English dub because it's so important to me to focus on the action, hear the voices in my head, and just full immersion. Um, but it's unfortunate, but they do have a lot of talking scenes, honestly. Like they talk a lot more than they fight sometimes, um, which is understandable. I mean, how often they're gonna fight? Fighting a Titan is the fight that lasts 2 minutes, but it's the fight of your life. So, um, and none of this, and all of this that I'm saying, dubs that weren't for me. But that was a literally bad dub. The Attack on Titan Funimation dub. Because honestly, I think they just. I'm not sure there was a they wanted to get it out there. They used whoever was at the station. They're like, hey, you still got Johnny, Carl, and Mike and Lisa. Are they still here? Have them come in the room and we'll knock out a few. I swear that's what happened. Like, Funimation has always been uh, a favorite. I don't know if favorite's the word, but I do appreciate that they make the dubs. The only problem is that smaller companies, unlike Funimation, don't always have the resources, the the motivation, really, because they're not reaching out to the same markets to make dubs. Sentai Filmworks, another great company. Well, actually, if anything, I feel like Sentai Filmworks might be a little above Funimation, but who knows? Who knows? They make dubs. I mean, I don't know, but great, just great. Great stuff. I do not like it though when English dub like they have the same. Well, I've heard the same actor before because you've seen enough English dub. You've seen as many English dubs as I have, and honestly, they're like celebrities at this point because they reuse them because they know they can do it, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. And it hurts. It wouldn't hurt the immersion probably because I don't let it happen. I'm like, okay, nope, pushing it out, pushing it out. I'm not gonna picture this character and this character and this character. Oh, I'm saying, the only time I'm happy with that is that they're like these voice actor crossovers where two voice actors who were in certain anime who played this character from the same series are also in this series and they're talking to each other. It's like so yeah, this has been me on dubbed anime. So see ya.